For 17 years they've raced, from the first year 1970, when a British Triumph was victorious, through to the days when the Japanese manufacturers took control. The late 70s and early 80s saw the huge 1100s and 1000cc machines so dominant. Then to this year of 1986, with the nimble but powerful 750s in control. The bikes have changed, as have the riders, but the challenge remains the same, to conquer this 6 hours of production motorcycle racing known as the Castrol 6 Hour. The location is Sydney's Oran Park Raceway, and today is race day. Your commentators, Will Hagan and John Smales.
30 kilometres south of Sydney, and the crowd are starting to arrive at Oran Park for the running of the Castrol 6 Hour Motorcycle Classic. In qualifying yesterday, the top 5 riders shattered the lap record. The top 8 were under last year's pole qualifying time. This most important of production bike races has brought together 8 former winners, 5 internationals and 7 Grand Prix riders in the most open race on record. For the first time in the 17-year history of the Castrol, the top 4 Japanese manufacturers have all simultaneously fielded competitive machines, and all of them are 750cc bikes. Yamaha has its FZ 750, the heaviest bike in the race at 209 kilograms. It's also the most economical, potentially capable of one less time-consuming pit stop than its competitors. Suzuki's GSXR 750 has the best power-to-weight ratio, producing 572 horsepower for every tonne of weight. Suzuki's have captured 3 of the 7 major production wins this season. Honda has its V4 at 104 horsepower, the most powerful bike in the race. It captured pole position yesterday with Mal Campbell up. Kawasaki debuted its GPX with a sensational second place at the recent Surfers Paradise 3 Hour. Rider injuries and illnesses, however, have held back its development this weekend. In our central commentary position today is the fastest man never to have won a Castrol 6 Hour, Graham Crosby, and with him is lead commentator Will Hagan.
Tremendous tension building up on an absolutely beautiful day at Oran Park, this circuit down near Camden, south of Sydney. The riders in readiness, 32 of them qualified yesterday. Out of an original entry, it's dropped by about 5 during to the hectic pace of qualifying because there's been an enormous number of crashes. Graham Crosby knows very well that it's a very hard race to win.
It certainly is, Will. Particularly this year, everybody's been running around doing pretty similar times. The bikes are all going pretty much the same speed. So it's just one of those things that, you know, there's not been a lot of practice. So it's going to be, I don't know, I've got my own reservations, I think, but it's got to be a Honda.
Ladies and gentlemen, stay with us now on ABC Sport across Australia as we feature the top 6 qualifiers determined after yesterday's practice for this, the great race of endurance, the Castrol 6 Hour.
In a very hot field of 32 bikes that qualified yesterday, 6th grid position taken for Action Suzuki by the Canadian residents, Michelle Mercier on the right and Gary Goodfellow on the left, both of them 30 years old. Their time, 1:18.13. The second of 2 Hondas in the top 6, 5th grid position for 2 Triple M Mentor motorcycles. On the left, Neil McKenzie, the up-and-coming Grand Prix ace, and Tasmanian Robbie Scolyer. Just 0.02 of a second faster than them for the Marlborough Yamaha dealer team. On the left, Michael Dowson. On the right, 24-year-old Horsham rider Kevin Magee. Mrs. Ron Bolden escorting the pair that had problems yesterday. Wayne Clarke, who crashed bike 11. Robbie Phillis, who rides for Bridgestone, Rob Phillis Racing. Second fastest bike in the field, Kiwi Rob Holden. And on the right-hand side of screen, Brent Jones. And they're riding bike 12, the second of the Action Suzuki entries. The only rider who's out-qualified the man on the left, Malcolm Campbell, this year, is the man on the right, Iain Pero, his co-rider on bike 7 for Team Honda Australia. Pole position, fastest qualifier yesterday. Less than a minute now to the start, 32 riders lined up and tremendous tension for this unique Le Mans start. The run across the track, start the machine on the electric start and away. The next 30 seconds will be the longest in these riders' lives as they wait for this start. 32 of them lined up. On the grid, 12 Yamaha FZ 750s, 9 Suzuki 750s, 4 Hondas, 3 Kawasaki's, a Moto Guzzi 1000, RG 500 Suzuki, and 3 two-stroke RZ 350 Yamaha twins. They're about to go. And there is that magnificent scene as they reach the bikes and they gun it out. And it's a tremendous start from Phillis and from Mal Campbell looking over his shoulder to watch Phillis looming up on him. So it was 7 and 11, got a brilliant jump. And everybody safely away from one of the most difficult starts in motor racing. Phillis, Campbell, first and second. That's the traffic and the tight left-hander at the end of the straight after the high-speed kick. And everybody safely through those two corners. And now Campbell coming up onto Phillis and surging to the lead on the Honda. But Phillis tries to hold him out and nearly does so, but I don't think he'll quite achieve it. Then on bike 4, great start from Kaczynski and Phillis. Kaczynski riding at the moment, the battle developing at the moment between Suzuki and Honda. Lead riders for both of them among the locals. And Robbie Phillis, who is full of witticisms and criticism. At the riders' meeting this morning, the briefing from the Clarke, of course, he is really into it hard. And they're building up a big gap on the remainder of the field. This is the corner onto the straight, Castrol. Phillis leads across the start-finish line for the first time. Standing lap time of 1:30.68, including the run across the track. Phillis, Campbell. And then it's Magee. And then on 12 it was Robert Holden. There's Magee and Holden. And looming in is the Magee bike of Richard Scott on bike 1. Good battle developing there. Kaczynski further back on the second of the Marlboro Yamaha dealer team bikes. That's Robert Holden, the Kiwi who absolutely forced Campbell as hard as he could in the last production race, the 3-hour up at Surfers. And this is the man he was chasing, who's leading the race now from Phillis. And there is the Oran Park Grand Prix circuit. In the S's, just as they come off the bridge, right in the right-hand corner of screen, round into the S's, Yamaha corner, where Wayne Clarke dumped yesterday, up at the top, the Honda flip-flop, and then Castrol corner, and now onto the main straight again. Phillis watches Campbell, and Magee's being caught by Holden, and they're 2.85 seconds in arrears to this flying pair, Honda and Suzuki. That's the gap. That's 2.85 seconds. It's Holden and Magee. And then it's last year's winner and the year before, Richard Scott. And in behind him on bike number 10 is Roger Hayes. He's going well. He hasn't had a start since Bathurst at Easter. And then on bike number 4 is Kaczynski, going very well on the second Marlboro bike. The bike in the same team as Kevin Magee. That was Kaczynski. 26th then is Mark Montfort, being ridden by Dave Lufty at the moment. Further back, bike 5 is the Neil Mackenzie bike. You just saw a flash of it there. The one that Wayne Gardner's looking after in the pits, Triple M Mentor, got a bad start. But this man is flying. Dropping back just a touch. Robert Holden is still third. Magee fourth, and it's Richard Scott fifth. Robert Holden there looking very tidy, holding on to third place in front of Magee. So that's Suzuki and Yamaha. They're in fact starting to peg back Robbie Phillis, I think. On their fourth lap now, in this tough grind of the Castrol 6-hour, the 17th year of its running. Robert Holden, who's been running a limited edition Suzuki for most of the season, but to today must be on the standard bike, because this is a race for standard bikes. Pre-scrutineered before the race. And there he is, close on Phillis. So third place is already under threat, or second at least. And then Magee trying hard to stay with them on the best placed of the Yamahas. Phillis back to third. Holden's up to second. He's out after Campbell. They've just done an 18.53, last year's qualifying time. Feeney, best placed Kawasaki, 10th place at the moment. Not a very well manned Feeney. But this is second placed Robert Holden, distancing himself from Robbie Phillis, the man who's got 2 international meetings in the very near future. Brands Hatch next weekend, and a couple of weeks after that, to the Suzuki circuit, riding for Warawaki. But this man was so determined at Surfers Paradise. Last time he rode at Oran Park, he broke his wrist riding in a superbike race and couldn't take part in the 2-hour production race that was here. But look at the way he's reining Campbell in. He's flying after him. Graham Crosby, what's the policy at this stage for the various riders, particularly the Yamahas that might get to an hour and a half and thereby one less pit stop than the others?
Well, of course, the way I've been looking at this race, the Yamahas can do probably low 18s probably all day. And they'll start doing 18s and the bikes will stay pretty much the same all the way through. The Suzukis, possibly the Hondas, may be able to go quicker initially, but they're going to have to drop back a little bit. So what you're seeing here now is we've got the Hondas and the Suzukis going for it, really putting up the good work. I see Wally Campbell is trying to obviously put a bit of a lead between him and you know, the guys behind, but I don't think that's really it's working too well because he's not going quick enough. And of course, we've got Robbie Holden coming up behind us, or into second, and he's just going to stabilise right behind that Honda and sit there and hopefully have quite a nice little run. I don't think he's going to try and pass him at this stage.
Campbell sure knows he's there. Phillis 3 seconds in arrears, and it's Holden in the lead. Suzuki overtakes Honda. Lap 7 of the Castrol 6R. There's the gap back to third place, which is Phillis. Campbell looks back to see who else is coming with Holden. And of course, he doesn't see anybody. It's the electric speed of that man out in front that's taken him to the lead. And he really did create the most enormous amount of pressure in the Shell Oils race at Surfers. Been to the fore in production racing in Australia this year.
Although, well, Robert has obviously overtaken Mal here, I don't think there's going to be much of a change as far as distances between the two. These two will probably settle into a nice pace. Whether it's Robert leading or Mal, it won't really make much difference because they've got a pretty comfortable lead over the second and third, and it just really the whole field is spread out quite a lot.
That lap better than 18. I've got it at about a 17.8. So that had put them among the first half dozen qualifiers in the opening laps of a 6-hour race for Robert Holden. That's the gap to third place Rob Phillis, being threatened by Kevin Magee, 30-year-old from Albury in the lead of those two bikes, 24-year-old from Horsham in Victoria on the Yamaha, and it's walking around a little bit too. Both of them supremely confident in the saddle. great natural motorcycle races as Magee ranges around the outside, looks for third place. Got it. Kevin Magee so smoothly, got his apex, exit was right, and Robbie Phillis from second has gone to fourth. From first on the first lap. Magee, is he out after Campbell and Holden? And if he is, we'll get some inkling of the Yamaha tactic, whether or not they're able to get through on 3 stops. So it's Suzuki first, Honda second, Yamaha third, Suzuki fourth.
Well, I'm quite surprised at the actual speed these guys are going so early in the race. You know, granted it is a long race and you've got to be there at the end and everybody conserves the machines and so forth, but it really looks as if they're not taking that into consideration at all. It's just, you know, leave your brains in the toolbox and just go for it.
Yeah, Kevin actually does plan and plot races. I've seen him do it on a number of occasions this year. He's obviously on top form at the moment on the basis of running at Sugo last weekend, where he got a fine second place there to the former World 250 champion, Christian Saron. Interesting news from the win back is that Neil McKenzie is in 9th place on the Triple M Mentor bike, and he was well further back than that in the opening lap, so he's coming forward, and Kosinski's going well too, on a bike that, well, a pairing that a lot of people here thought wouldn't go so well, and that his home press wasn't greatly impressed with. Kevin Magee getting away from Phillis.
Now across Australia on ABC Sport, our first updated position. After just 15 minutes of this year's Castrol 6 Hour, the race of endurance.
And at that stage, they're on their 11th lap, and the race is being led 1.6 seconds by Robert Holden ahead of Malcolm Campbell. Third, the Marlboro Yamaha dealer team bike being ridden by Kevin Magee. Looming in behind him, Phillis, who's been deposed from first right back to 4th place. Then Richard Scott, who's won it in the last 2 years, and the American pairing of Jim Phillis and John Kosinski in 6th place, the second of the Marlboro Yamaha dealer team bikes. Coming forward is the 2 times previous winner, 1984 and 1985. And that's Richard Scott, the man who's had such a good season in England. Like Wayne Gardner, he's been given a ride on a 500cc Grand Prix bike, and like Wayne Gardner, he's made very good use of it because he won a race at Donington. He's now in 4th place, and Robbie Phillis has gone back to 5th. That's bike number 1 for the Mattich team, and 11 for Bridgestone Rob Phillis Racing. And it's Yamaha versus Bridgestone. Robbie Phillis now 5th, and indicating to his crew.
It looks as if he has got definitely some sort of problem. He'd been indicating for some time. Now, right at the start of the race, I did notice that I think it might have been his fuel cap had come loose or something, because he looked as if on the first lap, the first run down the main straight, he was looked like he was fiddling with the fuel tap itself, or the fuel cap. Now, whether or not that it's not sealed correctly, and fuel is running off the fuel tank onto his leathers, making it very, very slippery indeed. I'm not sure at this stage.
This, of course, is not exactly the bike that was crashed by Wayne Clarke yesterday. They discovered the frame of that was twisted, so last night they replaced absolutely everything. They had it stripped down to a frame and an electrical wiring loom. They took the engine out of the race bike and they put it in a lot of the components of the test bike, and that allowed them to start from their original grid position.
Well, I understand they're up to about 3 o'clock in the morning last night, and I understand really that it was only the chassis that was slightly tweaked, so they've had to replace virtually the chassis, which is really changing all the components over.
Remarkably, Robbie Phillis being chased at the moment very skillfully by a helicopter pilot. Had done a 17.9 with that anyway in its twisted form yesterday, and he's into the pits. In 5th place, Robbie Phillis pits on lap 14.
"18 minutes into the Castrol 6 hour, and Robbie Phillis is in for an unscheduled stop. Team moves into the back of the bike. They're going to do a rear wheel change, so obviously what's been slowing Rob Phillis down has been perhaps a deflating rear tyre. Can't see anything wrong with it. Phillis is keen to continue. He and Wayne Clarke working around the front of the vehicle. 25 seconds gone already in this tyre change. Quick refuel. Phillis taking care of his own cap, and that's slow. Oh, this is a slow stop. 35 seconds gone already. Phillis fumbling with the fuel cap. No, Wayne Clarke's getting on the bike. How about that? 42.34 seconds. Robbie Phillis. Rob, what's gone wrong?
I don't know.
I'm sorry?
I don't know. There's something wrong with the back of the bike. It's a bike that we... let me take my helmet off. We had to build the bike last night because we crashed it yesterday. I think we've damaged something in the shocker or the back wheel or something, I'm not sure. But it's just dancing around everywhere. I just can't get the power to the ground. It's just dangerous, so I pulled in to see if we could fix it.
What's it feeling like on the fastest part of the circuit, Rob?
Bad. Dangerous.
You sent Wayne out on it. What instructions have you given him?
None. Just be careful.
Thanks, Rob.
And 14 going very well. That's Gary Goodfellow. An A grade. He was actually a Kiwi who went in 1980 to Canada. Former motocross rider. Probably still is a Kiwi.
I like that. I don't know how you can fail to become one.
He's got a funny accent for a Kiwi. I mean, Kiwis have funny accents, but doing a good job, and was just bumped out of the top 6 yesterday. Went very well. And Michel Mercier, who's among many other things, they've both raced motocross, and Mercier was an ice race specialist. He was 5 times national champion in Canada.
Well, in that case, it's pretty subtle sort of racing for him.
I reckon that's a very hard way to make your living. And you can see how hard Goodfellow works on the bike. And he's in 7th place at the moment, Gary Goodfellow, and he's working the machine very hard. Not a very smooth rider, Graham.
No, I was going to comment on that. He appears to be fairly aggressive on it, but you know, at this stage, I don't know. I haven't seen a lot of the riding style, well, not much of the riding style of him, but he definitely looks as if he could do with a schooling from Robbie Phillis or something like that.
Many Australians mightn't remember that he was over here in 1979 competing in Mr. Motocross and was 3rd that year to Anthony Gunter and Stephen Gall.
Does he think he's running a RM 750?
Well, I think so. He's putting in that sort of work on it, isn't he?
Yeah.
But he's been New Zealand 250 champion and a man, I think, doing very well over in Canada, Graham.
Yeah, I've been following him a little bit. Motocross, of course, I think now, just lately, I've seen a lot of people going from one sport to another, and they seem to adapt. You know, the Stephen Galls on the Yamahas.
Yeah.
Motocrossers nowadays seem to be able to adapt to this sort of road racing style fairly easily.
He was running a good 3rd to Freddie Merkel and Wayne Rainey in the American Superbike Series this year, then crashed, hurt his back, missed a number of rounds, and ended up finally 5th in the series. Neil Mackenzie on bike number 5 is now up into 5th place after a dreadful start. He must have been lapping as fast as anybody on the racetrack, because this is position number 4 that he's chasing. And that's not Richard Scott, who's won the race in the last 2 years. It's his co-rider who's starting on that bike. And that's Cox. And there they are, 4th and 5th place is Rod Cox, former winner of the race, Neil Mackenzie, the Scot, that's been around here on a 250 Grand Prix bike at 1:15.3, which would make him among the half dozen fastest men ever around Oran Park, and who then graduated from 250 Grand Prix earlier in the year on the carbon fibre Armstrong bike to running a 500 Suzuki in 3 Grand Prix, and he went superbly. His debut race was Silverstone in the pouring rain, and he not only stayed on it, he came 7th, which was just about Suzuki's best placing for the season. Watch him on Rod Cox. Lap 23 they're on. The race still being led by Robert Holden from Malcolm Campbell, Kevin Magee, a good few seconds back in 3rd place. Then it's 4th, Cox, 5th, Mackenzie. And Neil Robinson, who had troubles yesterday with his co-rider Ian Swift not having a licence and was kept out of the race. He's down. That's bike number 15 that qualified 11th fastest and took up with Glenn Taylor, and he is in 6th place at the moment. He was. And the battle goes on for 4th place, immediately in front of where Neil Robinson was. Young up-and-coming rider Robinson, along with Ian Swift, but not at all or quite unsettled by yesterday's problem with his co-rider not having a licence, and nothing that could be done about it, so he was out of the race. This is the team, of course, that's being managed by Wayne Gardner. Mackenzie had a minor crash on the bike on Wednesday. Then they had selector problems. It was jumping out of gear and, in fact, jumping down a gear. But they've fixed that.
Of course, that gearbox problem really was the end result of somebody riding a Grand Prix bike with a shift pattern that works a different way. Of course, with these ones here, it's down to stop and up to go, where it's reversed in the Grand Prix type of bike.
Cox doing his best to hold him off. And Mackenzie quite happy about his... Oh, my goodness. If he pulls that off, it's miraculous, because to get around the outside of somebody there, Graham Crosby, you'd appreciate better than most how hard it is, and he's done it.
Well, if I had done that, I would have been laying on the side of the track with you guys focused on me bottom again. I'm sure I would have ended up in the grass.
That really is a very difficult manoeuvre in a slow corner.
Well, of course, everyone knows the fastest way around is on the inside. You know, it's just not right to go right round the outside. Obviously, the Honda's got good tyres, a lot of ground clearance as well. Let's go down to the pits.
The Neil Robinson bike is now back to the pit. Glenn Taylor, the relief rider, has already run up to the corner and back again. They're refueling it. There doesn't appear to be any major problem with the bike. They're rechanging a rear tyre at the moment. Bike's been in the pits for 17 seconds only since it actually hit the pits, but of course it's lost more than a lap on the track. You can see that the fairing's been worn right away on the left-hand side of the bike. Neil Robinson walking back to the pits now, a very disappointed man. We'll get him in a moment, while Taylor prepares himself to go on. Still doesn't have his helmet on, so there'll obviously be a bit of work around the back of the bike. Tyre not relocating very well in the chassis, indicating perhaps that we could have broken the chassis or bent the chassis. Neil Robinson, what happened?
We're having a bit of problems with the brakes and that. We've got a whole stint to do, and I wasn't sure whether to stick it out and see whether it came good. I'm just trying to ride the bike a bit hard, I think, with the way the brakes work.
What's wrong with the brakes now?
They're going into the bar. I think we've got some kind of problem with the fluid or something like that, or the pads. I think we might have not bedded them in probably earlier on.
And what happened in the crash?
I think I just had a bit too much road speed on into the corner and a bit too much angle, and put the throttle on a bit trying to correct it, and almost saved it. It sort of went down on its side, then flipped me around.
You're okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Thanks, Dan. Fine. Just 36 minutes into the Castrol 6 hour, and the Wayne Clarke Rob Phillis bike is back into the pits. Clarke has obviously decided that the bike is unrideable at the rear end. Robbie Phillis now working on the suspension, monoshock suspension on all these machines. Getting quite a deal of rebound there. Phillis looking to see how the rear wheel relocates or locates in the chassis. But this bike crashed badly by Wayne Clarke yesterday, and the ABC's Dash for Cash is obviously ill handling and is obviously dangerous to ride. And I would suggest that Rob Phillis, the other fastest man never to have won a Castrol 6 hour, has lost his opportunity this year as well. And Graham Crosby, the problem with Rod Cox is that he has a bad cramp in his leg. In fact, while he started in the race, Richard Scott had to run across the track for him because the cramp was so bad. The team's now standing by to put Richard Scott on the bike early. But you, for one, Cros, know just what it's like to ride with cramps in your body.
I always get accused of having cramp when I put my leg out to stop at a Grand Prix or something for most of the commentators, but particularly around a circuit like this, the little FZ is a very a tight sort of a bike to fit. You know, it's got fairly high foot pegs, are very high, and of course the angles of your legs sitting on the bike is very tight, and of course with the heat, the tight leathers, you know, you're getting a restriction there, and if your body's not quite right, then cramp is definitely going to be a big problem.
Graham, a mistake anyway, I would suggest, to put Rod Cox on the bike first, given that he had a cramp.
Well, he's got to ride sometime or another. You know, you can't have one rider doing the whole lot, so best stick him out right at the start and see how he'll go.
Well, we'll stand by for an early pit stop down there here for the bike, of course, of Richard Scott, which has won the last 2 Castrol 6 Hours.
And back into 4th place goes Rod Cox, and back into 4th place goes Mackenzie. And Cox goes again. And Mackenzie goes again. Tremendous battle for 4th. Honda versus Yamaha. And it's looking more like a sprint race with a couple of laps remaining than a race with nearly 5.5 hours remaining.
You know, the funny thing is, Will, while we're sitting in the commentary box here, we can watch the lap scoring, and there's a little guy up there with his little pen and a piece of paper, and he's like a blur. He's going sort of 5-1, 1-5, 5-1, 1-5.
They're having a great time. Mackenzie did pull a little bit of time on Cox, and Cox has come back at him. The actual problem is that Rod Cox injured a knee a while ago, and they reckon the ligaments are a bit crook. And so he's not very fit for running across racetracks. But what you were saying about the way your leg is folded is the same for the Suzuki as well. It's a very high foot peg position to get the ground clearance that they need, and very uncomfortable if you're tall.
Well, of course, the ground clearance really comes down to trying to get the weight or the centre of gravity as low as possible. The lower you get the bike, the higher the foot pegs have got to be, because the higher the bank angle. You know, these things run around, I think, a maximum about 45 degrees of bank angle capable of, prior to the to any part of the bike actually touching the road.
Just half an hour into the Castrol 6 Hour, very disappointed. Robbie Phillis is out of the race. Robbie, what's gone wrong?
It's the same old problem that 750Rs I've always had. The rear shocker's gone off. We crashed the bike yesterday. Maybe it's damaged the shocker. But I don't think that's the biggest problem. I think it's just like we've been racing 750Rs for 18 months. Suzuki have had heaps of time to do something about it and fix it, but they just refuse to help us. So that's what they get for not helping us. I'm pretty dark about it. The only thing that was keeping us going, doing the lap times with the Bridgestone tyres. I just can't believe it, you know.
Your love affair with Suzuki is over, Rob?
Well, it's not looking good, is it?
The race leader is coming up to lap 8th place. In 8th place is the Paul Feeney Kawasaki, presently being ridden by Chris Oldfield. Robert Holden is storming away. He has nearly a 20-second lead now on lap 44 over Malcolm Campbell in 2nd place. He's just 5.5 seconds in front of Kevin Magee, who's pared back a lead that was 10 seconds. And there's tremendous battle going on with 7th position, bike number 4, the John Kosinski, Jim Phillis, Marlboro Yamaha dealer team bike. And the race leader, Robert Holden, lapping 8th place. It's actually Chris Oldfield on bike number 8 at the moment, not Paul Feeney, the number 2 rider. Last minute decision took over from Feeney, who isn't well. And so Holden really is flying, because he's pulled out a lead now of around 20 seconds over Malcolm Campbell, whose lead over Kevin Magee has been whittled back to just 5.5 seconds. Magee is reining Campbell in from a margin that was 10 seconds. But now Holden has to find a way around the John Kosinski, Jim Phillis bike number 4, which has been giving so much trouble to the Kawasaki that wants 7th place.
1 hour down, but 5 hours to go in this, the battle for the highest-ranked production motorcycle race in Australia, the Castrol 6 Hour.
And after 1 hour, they have completed 45 laps. They're on their 46th. And that man on bike number 12 doing a fantastic job over Malcolm Campbell, more than a 20-second lead. Kevin Magee is reining him in. Further back, some real interest, because Rod Cox on bike number 1 has managed to consolidate 4th place over Neil McKenzie, the Scot, and he's gone back to 5th despite all his daring in the right-hand corner after the bridge. So there it is, the Magee team bike in 4th place, and to be paired by the twice previous winner of the race, Richard Scott, very shortly. Then Gary Goodfellow going very well. He's in 6th place, another pair from America. And McKenzie does it again. He's under Rod Cox. He goes back into 4th place. Cox goes back to 5th. It has been a battle that's gone on for more than half an hour, and they are not very far short of the first scheduled pit stops for those teams who are doing 4 stops, 5 stints. In other words, 1 hour, 12 minutes on the bike.
Just 10 seconds after the regulation, 1 hour and 12 minutes to get into the pits to be able to do it with 4 stops. The lead rider, Rob Holden, is in the pits. He's handing over to Brent Jones, the New Zealand Formula 2 champion. Rear tyre goes on the bike. Dennis Neal has refueled it. This is going to be a huge quick stop. Won't start. It does. Has coughed and stalled again halfway down pit lane. Brent Jones desperately trying to get the bike moving. It's now going. The actual pit stop itself was 18.99 seconds, and Rob Holden is off the bike, almost exhausted. Rob, how's the bike?
Really good at the moment.
You really went for it, Rob. How are you feeling?
A bit tired, but I've got how to get over it.
Well, last weekend in the James Hardy 1000, Alan Grice said that his action plan when he won the race was to break their hearts in the opening laps. How about yours?
Well, I heard a rumour that some of the other bikes might run into tyre trouble with their front tyres, so I figured we won't run into any trouble if I go as hard as possible from the start. That all they can do is try and chase me, but there's more wear on their bikes and tyres. I can keep the times like that up all day long. I had no suspension, tyre, brakes, any trouble at all yet.
Good news. Thanks, Rob.
Thank you.
Graham, they've now dropped to 3rd place, and you know what that stalling's about.
Oh, it's pretty simple. You just get a little bit of fuel over the tank and drops down onto the hot engine. You get a vaporization, which causes the whole complete air system to be saturated. So obviously it's going to be running rich. So the only way to do it is just hit the button and keep it flat until it naturally comes again.
This is now the battle for 1st place in the Castrol 6 Hour. It's lap 54 or thereabouts. And Malcolm Campbell leads, but he's been reined in by Kevin Magee. And with the Suzuki back to 3rd place, Brent Jones riding it. And that puts the Scot Neil McKenzie, he's in 4th, but Will Magee, who can probably go an hour and a half, very close to it. Malcolm Campbell pitting, so he gives the lead away as he comes in, and into the lead goes Kevin Magee on bike number 3, and the big question is, can he get to an hour and a half?
3 minutes after the 1 hour 12 minute mark that will give him 4 pit stops in the event, Malcolm Campbell comes into the pits. Up on its stand, talks to Iain Pero, the co-rider, who'll now be getting on the bike. Rear tyre change. 16 seconds go. This will be slower than Robert Holden's stop. 20 seconds gone. Pero tries to fire the bike. Reluctant to start. It goes in 27 seconds, so they've lost 9 seconds in the pit stop to the Robert Holden bike. Mal Campbell. Tough work out there, Mal.
Yeah, fairly hard at this stage. Pace is up and Robert's going for it, yeah, for sure.
You were getting a fair bit of carry from Magee in the closing stages there.
Yeah, Kevin was catching up to me. I wanted the bike to be brand new when Ian jumped on at that time, so it'd be easy for him to adapt to it.
It's a 6-hour race, and I don't think we've got too many problems.
Pace was down in the high 17s to begin with, Mel. Had you expected to be so quick?
I'd expected to go a little bit quicker myself than what I did, but I also wanted to be smooth on the bike, and I couldn't be smooth and do those times at the same altogether, so I settled to sit round where we did.
Thanks, Mel.
No worries.
They've now dropped back to third place. Brent Jones is up to second. And in first place is Kevin Magee, the new race leader, the fourth we've had so far.
The Wayne Gardner tuned, or rather Wayne Gardner managed, Mentor Motorcycles team Honda hits the pits. At the same time, bike 14, the Gary Goodfellow bike, is also in the pits behind him. So action thick and fast here as Robbie Scollier gets on the Neil Mackenzie Honda. 19 seconds gone. They're still trying to relocate the axle in the rear wheel. It's in now. 24 seconds. 26, slowest stop of the lead riders so far. They could have done with some more practice. 31 seconds gone, and the bike's still sitting up there, still getting fuel in the bike. Whoa! 36, it fires at 37 and moves at 38 seconds. Wayne Gardner, a 38-second stop, with respect, is not all that good.
I think the main thing was it was the first one, everybody's nervous, and I'm sure the next few to roll on will be not a problem at all. I think everyone's just nervous and tense and there at the moment, so as the day goes along, I'm sure the fuel stops will get much better.
Had you practiced the pit stops very often in the last few days?
Yeah, we have quite a bit, but as I said, I think it's just the nerves of the day, and also our first stop, it sort of got to us, but it's not a problem, it's a long race yet.
Well, my regret is to tell you that you're 20 seconds slower in that stop than Robert Holden in the lead.
Yes, but, you know, it's 6 hours, isn't it? It's not a sprint race, so we'll see what happens.
Thanks, Rob.
Thanks.
Into the pits comes the race leader, Kevin Magee, 20 seconds in front of the Robert Holden, Brent Jones Suzuki. So he doesn't get to an hour and a half. He's faced with 4 stops.
And this is the bad news for the Yamaha team, the Mulberry Yamaha team. They're in 10 minutes short of the hour and a half mark. Kevin Magee steps off the bike. Michael Dowson about to get on. Frozen fuel going into the bike to get just that extra little bit of fuel into the tank. Not a bad stop so far, 19 seconds gone, but gee, has Robert Holden really put out the message with his 18-second stop. Finally, the axle goes in at 26 seconds. That's not good. Dowson on the bike, ready to go. 31 seconds gone. 33.2 seconds rolling. And Kevin Magee off the bike. How's it feeling?
Oh, it's okay, John. No dramas. We're just circulating at this stage of the game, and we want to try and keep up there, just keep up there with the leaders, and then be there at the end.
Disappointed that you didn't get to the hour and a half?
Oh, yes, but I think this year's much more pressure on this year than last year. It's much more of a sprint race this year.
Well, it certainly now compels you to have 4 stops.
Yeah, well, it's a bit easier on the riders, and it's also it gives you that extra fresh tyre to try and get the times down with and keep them down.
One and a half hours down into the Castrol 6 hour, and John Kaczynski, Jim Phillis hits the pits. They're stopped 27.22 seconds. The bike stalls, doesn't want to move, flooded with petrol, but goes at 27.22. That's significant because now the Yamahas have made their 1 hour 30. Only the lead bike, the Kevin Magee, Michael Dowson bike, has not done so. Team Matic is still to pit. Minutes after the 1.5 hour mark, Rod Cox staggers off the leading team managed bike, holding his knee almost collapsing. The rear tyre is out. Richard Scott, the man who's won the race for the last 2 years, talks to his co-rider and prepares to get on. An unfussed, seemingly unhurried, but lightning fast stop from the managed team. Not as fast as Rob Holden, It fires at 24.42 seconds. Not bad, team managed, and they've done it. They've got to the hour-and-a-half mark. Rod Cox, real problems with your knee?
Yeah, it's not any big drama on the bike. It's just it's starting to cramp a little bit, but mainly getting off when you've been there for so long. That's the main drama.
Well, you leapt off the bike just then, and it really looked like you were about to collapse on it.
Oh yeah, I forgot to put my right leg down first.
Hard pace out there, right?
Yeah, very bit of a drama with the rear shocky. It seems to have lost a bit of dampening from yesterday. Probably just the race, you know.
Well, your team manager, Chris Maddich, was telling me that you took the compromise, that you elected for a higher gearing for fuel economy to get to the hour-and-a-half mark. What sort of problem has that given you on the track?
Well, mainly the gearing in traffic's a little bit harder. You've got to shove it into people a bit more than you should. And I lose a little bit onto the straight to the other bikes, the Suzuki and the Honda. The Suzuki's just left it behind, but the Yamaha does the job over the hour-and-a-half, I think. So.
How difficult was it for you to find a slipstream to get that little bit of extra fuel economy?
Well, Niall McKenzie came past me there early on and we tagged around for a while. Actually, it was quite good. I got both of us going, I think. And saved me a bit of peril for a couple of laps as well.
Excellent. And Cros, the race tactics are really showing up now. The team managed people have elected to take a higher gearing to give themselves more fuel economy and get to an hour and 30 minutes, so they'll only have 3 pit stops. Their second bike's about to come into the pits now. But Cros, is that good tactic, sacrificing bike speed for that sort of thing?
Well, John, Will and I had both been discussing this prior to the 1.5 hour mark, and I thought it was pretty interesting that the two of them have elected to run, or especially the Mulberry Yamaha team, have elected to run one quick one and one slightly slower. So that, I think it's good, definitely good tactics on their part.
And the second of the team managed bikes is in the pits at 11:39, 9 minutes after the 1.5 hour mark. John Pace gets on the bike, Ben Middlemas off, and their time was about 23 seconds.
This is the man that's flying at the moment. He's in second place, and he's only about less than 2 seconds ahead of third placed Michael Dowson on bike number 3. But both of them are catching the leaders. There you can see Michael Dowson, and he's been that close to Pero ever since they both got on the bike and went out for the second stint. But they are hauling in the race leader, Brent Jones, on bike number 12. He is losing ground. He's been more than 22 seconds in front. In the last lap, he lost 1.86 seconds. So it's 10.8 seconds now, the gap. First to second, with Dowson a real threat for first potentially as well. That's third place. That's Michael Dowson. He's coming through with Pero. So Suzuki in the lead, losing ground to Honda in second place and to this Yamaha in third. Doing Graham Crosby about 118 what?
Well, 118.7 in traffic. That's a pretty good time considering, you know, when you're out there and there's always going to be somebody there at the wrong time. The wrong place, the wrong part of the track.
Well, 14 having an interesting battle here. Gary Goodfellow, Michel Mercier, with the Kawasaki being ridden now by Paul Feeney. 8 is up in 6th place. The bike number 14 for Action Suzuki has gone back to 7th place. So the same sort of battle as is developing up in the lead, with the race lead whittled now to 9.3 seconds. It's going on here in the minor placings. There's Feeney. Not a well man at all, but that won't stop him showing usual Feeney grit and determination. The man who won this race last year, partnering Richard Scott. And a crash there for number 24. That's Robert Astley, Jim Judd. Judd started on the bike, so it's Robert Astley trying to sort out the problem. Qualified quite well. Judd qualified at 15th yesterday, an A-grade rider from South Australia. Robert Astley is a B-grader. And now the embarrassing moment. He can get it back to the pits, but of telling his pit crew what he did wrong.
On ABC Sport, we're now at 1/3 race distance in this, the race of endurance. The 1986 Castrol 6 Hour. With an update of positions, here's Will Hagan.
And it is shaping up to be a sensational race, because although Bike 12 is still leading, its lead has been whittled back to less than 4 seconds, and 2 people are catching him.
There's a lot of pressure on Brent Jones here. He's got a hard act to follow with Robert Holden setting the pace so hard in the start.
This is the man that's catching. It's Iain Pero on bike number 7. He's whittled it back from more than 22 seconds to less than 4, and he is bringing third place bike number 3 with him.
This is supposed to be, I reckon, the best combination. Wally Campbell and our lad here is going to be the one at the end.
And this is the bike that's coming with them, and it's Michael Dowson on the bike, the man who rode relentlessly on the 500 Yamaha 2-stroke 2 years ago to record his first victory in the race, and he's doing it again, the same sort of determined effort.
This is the quickest Yamaha on the track, you know, with the lower gearing and the bigger jets. It's enabling it to get around quicker, although not too economically, I might add.
And then the other things that come into the calculations is this, that bikes 1 and 2 have got to an hour and a half and therefore are down 1 less stop. And they should get into the action as they start to pick up the benefit of 1 less pit stop. It is shaping as a superb race, and it's heading for 270 laps, a record distance, because they've done 45 in each of the first 2 hours. Fourth, of course, on the bike at the moment, Richard Scott, who's run it in the last 2 years, and then Robbie Scollier is in charge of bike 5 at the moment, with Michelle Mercier looking after number 14 in 6th place. And should any incident occur that requires ambulance attention, as happened yesterday to John Jenkins, that rescue helicopter can get a rider to Westmead or to Parramatta Hospital in just 8 minutes. Well, we've now got the lead Honda that's in 2nd place and reigning in the leader, has just lapped bike number 5 in 5th place, and he is well and truly within sight of the leader, who is Brent Jones on bike number 12. That's the Suzuki. There it is. So you've got 1st place, then 2nd place on 7, then 3rd place on bike number 3, and that's after more than 2 hours of racing, sensationally close and hard fought. Michael Dowson, the man who won it in 84. Iain Pero hasn't won the race. His co-rider Malcolm Campbell won it the last race at Amaroo with Rod Cox in 83. Bit of smoke there, Graham Crosby, from a Honda.
Yes, looks like on a trailing throttle. Could be some internal wear, I guess, maybe piston rings or something like that, maybe not being run in quick enough.
Brent Jones, the leader, on the bike that Robert Holden rode so brilliantly till the pit stop. Then Iain Pero, then Michael Dowson. And this is lap 95, and they're scheduled for about 270. And remember that on top of this, you've got the Matich team bikes who've got 1 less pit stop, who haven't yet benefited from that, and they're in the thick of the traffic. Race leader Jones, don't make an error. Michael Dowson, who will lead this race in the next minute or two? Which of the 3? In the way at the moment is 26 Mark Montfort and 24 Robert Astley, Jim Judd. After their crash, they're back into it. Raging round the outside goes Dowson. His rear wheel was under real danger there for a moment, and he comes up onto Pero. And in fact, Jones back to 3rd, so the new race leader is Pero. Dowson's 2nd, Jones is 3rd, and the traffic is unbelievable. They're on lap 96. They've been racing for 2 hours and 7 minutes as they go off down the straight. And Iain Pero in a grand ride on bike number 7 as Brent Jones comes back at him, and so too does Michael Dowson. Dowson's gone from second back to third as Jones re-attacks, and the track is still littered with bikes right where the leaders are. Dowson's back up to second. Brilliant stuff. Absolutely. It's Honda leading from Yamaha from Suzuki. The fourth place bike is one of the bikes that has to make one less pit stop. That's Richard Scott and Rod Cox, although they're nearly a lap down at the moment. As Dowson gets first place, he's underneath Iain Pero, and the crowd love it, they're cheering. And Brent Jones is third, and Robert Holden.
The hour and a half. Figured if the times we could turn the hour and a half and the times we could turn and use the fuel up, it was too much of an advantage.
Dowson's really responding to the challenge.
Yeah, Michael and Kevin, you know, they can lap consistently all day, and that's their strong point. That's what got them to second place at Suzuki, and you know, we expect to keep going like this as it is on the road. Everyone's from now on is an even number of pit stops. That's the race.
Presumably, you prefer that there was just a few more seconds between Michael and second place.
I would, but you know, they've got 3.5 hours to do that.
Into the pits, bike 8, the first of the team Kawasaki bikes. Watches on. They're running 7th. Feeney on the bike, getting off now, about to hand over to Chris Oldfield. In borrowed Kawasaki leathers, the word Doyle crossed out on the back of his leathers. They really are very second-hand. Unhurried pit stop from the Kawasaki team, but quite swift, 23.02 seconds. Three minutes after their scheduled pit stop, the aptly named Action Suzuki heads for the pits. Brent Jones to come off the bike and Robert Holden to go on. Theirs was the fastest of the first scheduled pit stops, only 18 seconds, you might remember. Now it's all up to Holden to make up the time back on the track that unfortunately Brent Jones has lost. This is a slower stop. It's gone out to 21 seconds already. 23.2 seconds for Robert Holden, and he's back in the motorcycle race. Brent Jones, the pace really hot out there.
Yeah, it's pretty tough. I just wanted to hang in there and not make any mistakes, like Robert's a bit faster than me. So I just sort of sat him behind Scotty, he was a good guide. And then when Magee and Pero come past, I tried to keep up with them.
Well, Pero really hauled you back, 22 seconds over...
Yeah, well, you know, I was just out there to stay up, not doing anything silly.
And from second place and into the pits comes bike number 7, Iain Pero, who has done a great job in this session, taking the bike up into the lead and now ready to hand it over to Malcolm Campbell.
3 minutes after they were due into the pits, so they're forever picking up time in the pits. Mal Campbell checks out the front wheel of the bike just to make sure that he's got tyre condition on the front with his Michelin tyres. He claims it's okay. Pero talking to him now, giving him instructions as to what's on the track. This is a super smooth stop from Team Honda, and he's rolling in 19.74 seconds, a record for Team Honda. Iain Pero, superb riding out there.
Thanks very much. It's hard work.
How hard was it?
Bloody hard. It's hardest I've ridden. I can't get my breath. Michael was giving me a real run for my money, but we got held up a bit by Scotty. I don't think he realised we were there, but it's hard work out there. It's hot, slippery, very hard work. I'll have a drink.
The Neil Mackenzie bike comes to the pits. Rob Scollier on it, Mackenzie waiting to get back on. Rear tyre change only. Wayne Gardner moves in around the front end of the bike. Remember that Gardner has said that they may well make a front tyre change in this race, but he claims that the bike at this stop certainly is okay, and it could well be that he's been bluffing only. Remember that they made their first stop in 38 seconds. The clock ticking away. They're still trying to get the back wheel in, but this is going to be a faster stop. 26 seconds gone. Mackenzie hits the starter button, fumbles it. Bike doesn't want to start, refuses to start. 32 seconds, 33. Crew getting ready to push it. Billy Hill trying to push it off at stand. Oh, this is a disaster for them. Still won't fire, just starting to cough now. Not firing yet, 45 seconds gone. Oh, the agony of it all. Bike just doesn't want to fire. Now going 51.12 seconds. And a disappointed Rob Scolyer just slumps back up the pit lane.
To Michael Dowson, the race leader by about 34 seconds at the moment, over Malcolm Campbell back in the saddle on bike number 7, who has an 11.8 second margin over Robert Holden, who's pulling that margin back on the flying Suzuki, the blue bike, number 12. Dowson's done a superb stint, well and truly matching the efforts of his co-rider Kevin Magee. He did a brilliant hour and a half on the RZ 500 in '84, and Magee last year did a brilliant effort in the wet when people like Wayne Gardner, many of the top riders in Australia and some top international riders were falling off their bikes. Kevin Magee rode spectacularly fast but cleanly last year. That's the pairing for bike number 3, a bike which, if the total slowdown time, pit stop and get out again up to race speed takes more than 34 seconds, will lose the lead to Honda number 7, which doesn't have much of a margin in front of Robert Holden. Here he comes. He looks back to see how far back number 7 is Malcolm Campbell. And into the pits comes Michael Dowson. Slowly his pit crew onto the stand and ready to start the tyre change now. Kevin Magee, bit of a briefing for him. Brand new Kushitani leathers. Kevin calmly, very relaxed, onto the bike as they change the rear wheel. Bike 7 goes into the lead, as you can see it go down past the pit counter now. And Robert Holden will probably go with it. Robert Holden is in second place now, so they are third at best. Next place bike is that number 1 Yamaha as they go out after 39.7 seconds. The number 1 Yamaha for the Matic team has not come by. And so Kevin Magee's in third place now.
Mike Dowson, one of the best rides we've seen from you for a long time.
Oh, well, I did the same thing in the last 6 hours, but I had a few problems. But yeah, I'm happy with the way things are going, yeah.
Feel good yourself?
Yeah, ready to go.
Pace was hard?
Yeah, it was pretty well on the limit all the way, and I expected it would be that way after the 3 hours. So Kevin and I am feeling fit, and we're very hungry for this one.
You very much caught Pero on the jump.
Yeah, he got caught in traffic, and I was flying through the traffic pretty good, and I think I made the jump on him. And I think he was sticking pretty close to me after that.
Well, fellow Queenslander Greg Hansford's been watching you from the central commentary box, and he says you've handled the traffic better than he's seen anyone do so for a long time.
Thanks, Greg.
Well, into the pits with Neil McKenzie going off circuit. We don't think he crashed. think he stayed upright, but they're called into the pits. Not such a happy time for the Scot. He must have crashed. He's decked it. And they're attending to it on the right-hand side there.
I would think that he may be adding oil, because we've been watching it through its progress here, and it's been smoking severely. Now, it could be that the bike hasn't done the kilometres in the run-in period. They're putting about a litre of oil in there, which is quite a lot.
In fact, we've noticed a little puff of blue smoke from both the Hondas, the lead bike as well, which suggests that they might be chewing a bit.
Just prior to him coming in here, he did disappear off the circuit at one stage. It could be that it had a temporary seizure or something like that, or just got tight and picked up and locked the back wheel and sent him off into the boondocks.
Well, not only is the filler well hidden behind the fairing, but it has to be wired up tight as well, so that it can't inadvertently unscrew.
They put a lot of oil in there.
And away they go again with this hard starting business, being pushed by the runner-up in the World 500cc Championships, immediately behind the bike, Wayne Gardner, and not underway, Neil Mackenzie, Robbie Scollier, and then a casual message of Wayne Gardner saying, "Why did you pull up there? I didn't want to talk to you." And Robbie Scollier saying, "Oh dear, oh dear."
Wayne Gardner, what's the problem with the bike?
Well, we think with all the jumping into gear in practice, I think he must have touched a valve and possibly bent it, and it's been sucking oil out of the motor and burning it, so it's just about run out of oil, and it won't change gear now, so we're just about finished for the day, unfortunately.
Not bad luck for you.
It is, because we put a lot of effort into getting this team together, and unfortunately it comes to a halt in, what, the third hour, so you know, that's the way it goes. That's racing, as they say. Thanks.
Two B graders, Stephen Ellis and Gary Wan, in trouble on 23. He's quickly underway again. But more Honda woes. And a patch of oil on the track with the marshal soaking it up with a bit of cement dust. And that, of course, was from the crashed bike number 23. But well offline. And you can see the smoke is getting worse on this Honda number 5 Triple N Mentor. Not in good shape. It's one of those days that just goes from bad to worse.
I would say if we stay on this for any longer, we might have a bit more oil for the boys to clean up. It looks really to me as if you've had a partial seizure or something like that, and just on the overrun you'll notice when it's close to the throttle you get a lot of oil or smoke coming out the back.
And this is number 2 trying to hang on to 5th place, and 14 wrestling with him in 6th place. So on bike number 2 is John Pace, Ben Middlemas, and the other one, 14, is the Action Suzuki one of Michel Mercier and Gary Goodfellow. So there is tremendous racing throughout this race. The lead being held at the moment by Malcolm Campbell on 7, but it's being whittled away by Robert Holden. It's now less than 4.5 seconds. Back to 3rd place, Kevin Magee is 11 seconds, and that's being whittled away. Then you've got this sort of battle on for 5th and 6th. And you've got Paul Feeney pulling away just a little bit on the Kawasaki from the 2nd of the Marlboro Yamaha dealer team bikes. So tremendous racing as he's balked and very nearly turns himself into a lapped bike, and he very nearly drops it too. And 14 goes by him. And so Goodfellow back into 6th place, 5th place at least, and 6th place for John Pace, Ben Middlemas.
The halfway point has now been reached in this 6-hour clash of man and machines, the 1986 Castrol 6-hour.
And it's going exactly to that 45 laps an hour schedule, which means we're heading for a record distance, 10 extra laps on last year. That's the situation with Campbell, a slender 4.6 seconds ahead of Robert Holden, catching him. Michael Dowson staying steady at about 11 seconds, is in third place. So Honda, Suzuki, Yamaha in the first three placings. Then Richard Scott and Rod Cox, they're due for a pit stop, their second one only, very shortly. Then Goodfellow Mercia and the second managed team bike of John Pace, Ben Middlemas, number 2. They're all a fair way distant from the leading three. The race leader being pursued, though, is Malcolm Campbell, but he looks more grimly determined to fight off the Suzuki challenge from Robert Holden this time than he was in the opening stint. So Campbell on 7 comes off down the straight, and we'll get a split on him in a moment, to Robert Holden and number 12, and the gap is 5.3 seconds as Campbell fights back. And his lead of 11.3 seconds brought back to 8.8, and then in the last few laps brought even into 4.6 seconds. That's the lapped bike, of course, that's back in 7th place. But everything that Robert Holden can produce at this stage is being answered by Malcolm Campbell at about that 5-second mark. It got down to just under that. And there is the leading pair coming off the bridge. You can see the green Kawasaki leathers in among them. And the choppers in hot pursuit. And of course, not only has he got a problem keeping up with them because of the pace they're doing, but of course he must be sure not to give them any air off the, as you see there, the second but last bike there is the race leader, Malcolm Campbell, surging forward, outbraking people as he comes up to Castrol corner. And a good crowd here today on a glorious Sydney day. Right in the middle of the traffic too, the McPhee Transport entry of Brad Haywood.
Pit stop for the team manage, Yamaha FZ 750. Richard Scott, twice winner of the bike, off it, and Rod Cox about to get back on. They're going to take one less pit stop than the leading three riders. They're about a minute behind on the track. That means that they can maintain their current situation in the last hour of the race. They should be just about right and in touch with the leaders. This not a particularly fast, not bad though, 27.54 seconds as Rod Cox charges back out into the Castrol 6 hour.
Taking a long time, he's 11 minutes outside the 3 hours to make his second pit stop. Is the bike that's in 6th place, in fact. That's John Pace and Ben Middlemas. Let's see what sort of a job they do. And they're fiddling about, got a problem as Ben Middlemas gets on the bike and waits very, very anxiously to get away. This is more than half a minute already. They're having trouble getting everything aligned to stick the axle through, but there's something down the right-hand side there as well. Finally, the axle through, nut on. Rattle gun to do it up. Split pin has to go in according to the scrutineers and away, but a fairly slow stop for the bike in 6th place. The McPhee Transport bike, Brad Haywood, that qualified a fair way down in the field, 16th. Pardon me, and John Richards, 2 A-grade riders, putting in a lot of effort and a very nicely prepared and turned out team. But this stage, wondering whether it's worth continuing. This is first and second in the Castrol 6 hour after 3 hours and 20 minutes of racing. Robert Holden has done it again. He's reined in Malcolm Campbell on the Honda number 7, and he's about to attack him for the lead. And in fact, there's quite a while before they're due for their next pit stop, probably something close to 20, perhaps even 25 minutes. So Holden could consolidate his lead. And the other interesting thing is that Kevin Magee is doing the same thing back in third place. We just might have seen a flash there of the Dayglow orange at bike number 3, because he's whittled his deficit down from more than 12 seconds to just 6.8. So third's catching second. Second has caught just about first. And Suzuki ready to dive down the inside of the Honda, but he doesn't quite do it. Malcolm Campbell hangs on grimly and moves right over and says, all right, if you want to do that, and I'll come over and I'll have a slipstream. So it's Robert Holden back into the lead again, and it's taken a very long time for him to get there, picking up the time that Brent Jones, his co-rider, lost. And Jones was doing the right thing. He was making sure the bike was in good order, not crashed when he gave it back to Robert Holden, who is electrifyingly fast. In fact, Graham Crosby, you reckon it's about the fastest bike in a straight line?
Well, I was just saying that before to you, well, this number 12 bike here that we're looking at has got so much speed down the straight, it's unbelievable. Now, I know all these bikes are supposed to be standard, and I'm not suggesting it likewise, but the speed differential can be quite a lot between this one and a lot of the other standard ones out there.
And Malcolm Campbell trying to hang on to Robert Holden. Tremendous racing, it really is. With not much over half the Castrol, not much under half the Castrol 6 hours still to come. And as I said, third place catching this pair. They are about 6.8 seconds back to third place Kevin Magee. So Greg Hansford, you reckon it will get closer as the race goes on?
Yes, it will. I think you'll find that...
How on earth he let it happen, and on the other, frantically trying to get the thing underway again. And there from 5th place is number 14, Action Suzuki bikes. Have been down in practices and again on race day. Not, of course, the lead bike, number 12. It's had a fine time. Well, the only one that hasn't been decked, in fact, during qualifying as well. That's Gary Goodfellow, Michel Mercier bike, underway again, but it was in 5th place.
He's definitely taken the left-hand foot peg off. You can see he's got nothing to... He can't even put his foot on anything there. So that's at least going to be probably 10 minutes to change, put a new one on.
And into the pits comes the race leader, and he is perhaps a minute too early. He might end up with another pit stop because he was due in at 3:36.
And indeed, you're right, Will, he's 3 minutes too early. I don't know whether he's miscued or whatever, but he certainly told the team that he wanted to come in. He's the only one of the 3 Action Suzuki still in action, in fact. Behind him, the bikes 14 and 15 are both out of the race, both with suspension problems. This is a fast stop. Change of a rear tyre and gone in 19.87 seconds with Brent Jones on the bike. We've seen some real heroes out in the Castrol 6 hour today, and Robert Holden certainly is one of them. Rob, the race pace very savage.
It's pretty fast out there. I'm just going as fast as I can go. The traffic puts a few slow laps in, but it's after the 3rd hour now, and we're doing 17s and stuff. It's just really quick pace.
You forced Mal Campbell into error?
I just caught up with him and just, pushed him as hard as I could, and I found a little bit of a gap and managed to make a break on them. I just didn't look around, just kept going forward.
The bad news for the rest of your teammates, however, is that they're having suspension problems. One bike out of the race, the other one struggling.
Yeah, we haven't had any suspension problems yet. Maybe they're a little bit harsher on the bikes or down change it a little bit different. Brent rides the bike pretty smoothly, and I don't think I'm too hard on the bike, so hopefully we'll have no trouble at all.
Brent's a bit off your pace.
Yeah, well, he's used to riding 250 GP bikes. It's the second time he's ever raced a production bike, but he'll be there at the end, it'll be no problem.
Means it's going to be pretty hard for you to get back on, because presumably you're going to have to make up a bit of time.
Well, we've done it in the last 2 stints, so we'll just have to do it in the last one.
In 9th place outright is bike number 16, Wellbeck Motorcycles, Rob Duran and Aaron Slight. It's been a bit of a troublesome weekend for them because John Jenkins crashed yesterday, breaking his pelvis, He was taken to Westmead Hospital by the rescue helicopter, and they then had a massive rebuild of the bike. It didn't look anything like that yesterday, the colour scheme of it. But let's go down to the pits.
The bike battered. Mal Campbell's bike into the pits. He's lost quite a deal of his handlebar arrangement. Clutch has gone entirely. It's not looking good for the Malcolm Campbell bike. The fuel tank dented as well. Iain Pero was going to get on it. They've called it a day. They've put the motorcycle away. So for Mal Campbell, the Castrol 6-hour motorcycle race is over. The team consoling themselves and walking straight off. There's no way known that that motorcycle was going to go out there again and be competitive. The abject disappointment of failure in the Castrol 6-hour, Malcolm Campbell. What went wrong, Mel?
We ended up blocking a break up at the end of the main straight, trying to make up a bit of ground on Robert Holden's superbike, and I was getting pretty dejected with the speed that it had, and I wanted to run with him till my fuel stopped. I overcooked it a bit. I guess the race got the best of me, but I'm really disappointed from my teammate Iain Pero and the team. They've put in so much work. I'm afraid we're out of the race now. That's all we can say, really.
That's a pretty heavy allegation, superbike.
Well, I think we could... I don't know whether anything can be done after the race or not, but I know they had the bike to bits last night, but I'd like to find out the scrutineer that was watching them do it, because it's definitely not the same bike that was here the other day.
Just how much faster is it than you down the straight?
Well, it was quite interesting. I thought it was fast in the early session when he passed me, so when he come to lap me or pick up the lead in that particular session, I knew he was right on my tail. I went right to the other side of the track. He didn't even use my slipstream and still pulled 50 metres on me down the straight.
The Kawasaki from 5th place, the team that had had the most wretched luck in recent times, has crashed. It's out of the race. That's the Paul Feeney, Chris Oldfield bike. It was Chris Oldfield, I think, on it at the moment. And it's a wreck. And that's a team that's seen Len Willing crash and go out of the race, or go out of motorcycle racing for some months. That happened a month ago. Seen Jeff McNaughton get on the bike and crash, testing its surface, and he's out. Nothing to do with the bike, just really bad run of luck for the team and for the riders that have been in it. And in fact, it's the team that Robbie Phillis could have joined. He was invited to ride for them, and I wonder if in the light of the competitiveness of the bike and the way that the comments he made about his Suzuki, whether he now regrets that he didn't take up the offer.
Must be some oil down there.
And there must be oil down there in the bottom section of the circuit, because bike 34, John Shannon, Brett Bayliss, the RZ 350, the little twin-cylinder two-stroke, that's gone down too. So whether the Kawasaki spread oil, or whether there was oil there already.
Graham Trinder there as well.
So let's hope the officials get the flags out and stop it happening to anybody else. And it's Trinder down too. Craig Trinder, he was riding number 18 with Trevor Manley and Alan Cunningham. 18 was well back in the field. It had been up in about 12th place. It slipped back behind that in recent times.
I was speaking to him earlier on, and he said he was a little disappointed with the speed of the Suzuki that he was riding. And one of the things he said was that the bike has probably done about 10 Castrol 6-hour races virtually. It's a pretty old bent one, and it was getting a bit old and a bit tired. He couldn't really put the laps together.
And the news is that it's not Paul Feeney on the bike, Will. In fact, it's Sean Gallagher, the reserve rider. Feeney has gone home to his motel absolutely dog sick.
Oh, and absolutely swooping past 5th place number 4. That is, of course, the second of the Yamaha dealer team bikes, Jim Phillis, John Kosinski, is the second place bike as he goes back a place again, as the determined little Jim Phillis pushes him back. And this is, of course, Brent Jones doing the job on the Suzuki that's led the race for a lot of the time, but is second at the moment, some 40-odd seconds in arrears. to the lead bike of this team, of the Yamaha dealer team, the one being ridden presently by Kevin Magee. Let's go down now to the pit area.
Craig Trinder is one of the walking wounded from the crashes on the fastest corner on Oran Park. Craig, what's happened?
Apparently down there on the edge there, I was going underneath the rider and I went lower than I normally go. And just on the inside, there's all these little rocks and such. But apparently one of the guys had gone out with a leaking oil line, and just down low, I think about 4 of us hit it. But I just told the guys to maybe go down there and clean it up a little bit, because if you go low, it's awful dangerous. And I don't know, what are you doing there, about 230 k's or something? I've never fallen so quick in all my life.
Thanks, Craig.
Stephen Ellis and Gary Wan riding, 2 B graders riding bike number 23, qualified 19th yesterday. They've moved up to 8th, but more important to the world's biggest motorcycle manufacturer, Honda, is that they are the lone remaining Honda in the race. With the 2 Triple M Mentor bike out, and with the Honda Australia bike out, these people are flying the flag. And not doing a bad sort of a job either. Bike 26 in front of them on the racetrack, Macklin Motorcycle bike of Mountford, David Lufji, is in fact further back. He's in 11th place. In other words, it's a lap down. Immediately in front, 28 is entered by Footscray Motorcycles from down in Victoria, Brian Johnson, Rob Simons and George Ram. And that was a bike that, in its trailer, the trailer broke away from its tow vehicle, rolled over, and the bike got a hell of a thumping as well. So they're doing well just to be out there, but in fact are not in the top 14. They're below that.
You're watching the race of endurance, the Castrol 6 Hour. 4 hours have now elapsed, and this is how the teams are positioned.
That's incidentally looking at the circuit from Castrol Corner, with the pit area up on the top right-hand side of picture. And the situation with the lead bike due in the next few minutes to make a stop is that it is on the same number of laps, but about 40-odd seconds in front of the Robert Holden, Brent Jones Suzuki, which is losing ground to it. Then in 3rd place, the Matic team calculations coming into effect here, although they're a lap down at the moment. It is their sister team bike, if you like, that's a further lap down, so 2 laps behind the leader, and they're in 4th place. That's John Pace, Ben Middlemas. Then the imported pairing in the Marlboro Yamaha dealer team, SD 750 Yamaha, Jim Phillis, John Kosinski, and then the Kawasaki GPX 750 of Roger Hayes, a former Castrol 6-hour winner, and Todd Hamilton. Hayes having only his 2nd ride this year and appearing in the top 6 for the first time. Helped very much by crashes to the Kawasaki and also, of course, to Malcolm Campbell. Kevin Magee, the race leader, coming into the pits now. 185 laps completed and 4 hours and 5 minutes of racing.
1 hour, 20 minutes between pit stops, and Kevin Magee brings in the lead Marlboro Yamaha for its 2nd last stop. Michael Dowson ready to get on board. Peter Addison, the refueler, puts in 22 litres of fuel, more fuel than any other bike can take, which lets it stay out there just a little bit longer. New rear tyre goes on the bike. Warren Willing looks at the front tyre, says it's quite okay and lets it continue. 19 seconds gone. Dowson on the bike, being warned to watch out for the oil on the fast corner at the bottom of the main straight. This is a slower stop. 28 seconds gone, and he blasts back out into the Castrol 6-hour. And right behind him is bike 12. That's Robert Holden, comes out to pass him, and Holden takes over the lead.
That's Brent Jones, who was 44 seconds behind it the previous lap, but he's blasted through and he was losing a little bit of ground, Jones, and I don't think it'll take Michael Dowson very long to start to come to grips with him. So the race situation lighting up again.
Kevin Magee, a lot of concern that the track's getting very slippery.
The track's fine, actually, John. Down the bottom there isn't really any problem.
So what's the problem with everyone else falling off?
Well, I'm not sure.
But from your viewpoint, you're a happy man.
No, well, I think the times are okay. I haven't checked with Warren yet, but I think they're good for this stage of the race and all that sort of thing.
Tyre conditions fine?
Sorry?
Tyre conditions fine?
Yeah, no problems.
You're happy now with the decision to go with the sprint tactics rather than trying to get to the hour 30?
Yes, I wanted to do that all along because the way I ride uses, funnily enough, a lot more fuel than Michael Dowson, so he might go okay for the hour and a half, but I probably wouldn't make it.
Well, you've got one more stint to go, the remaining stint at the end of the race.
Yeah, I think that'll be a tough one.
Thanks, Kevin.
And there's the man he's just handed over to, settling in on the bike, and out after the Suzuki of Brent Jones. Gary Goodfellow's gone again, and he is in 12th place, or he was, and he's going backwards. And as Greg Hansford knows, when things start to go wrong in a motorbike race, they really do compound themselves, don't they, Greg?
Yeah, I guess most of the time you feel like giving it away, Will, when things like this happen. That's, I think, the second time now he's been on the ground, but I don't think you'll find him continuing now.
Well, he's trying to get back to the pits, but I reckon the first thing he wants to do is get back there. The second thing is to hand it over to somebody else.
You wouldn't want to ride it like that.
And this again is the battle for the lead in the Castrol 6R, a quite memorable race with 4 hours and 17 minutes of racing gone. The race leader is number 12. It's being crewed at the moment by Brent Jones. Robert Holden's done 2 stints on the bike and done them superbly, but he's been losing ground to the man that's just done a pit stop, gone out on the bike. He's fresh, and it's Michael Dowson on bike number 3, and he wants the lead back. He wants Yamaha in front of Suzuki. The Suzuki is due to pit in about 30 minutes' time. If it goes well and Jones can eke out this pit stop just a little bit longer than Robert Holden managed to do, he'd like it to be 32, 33 minutes' time. Give Robert Holden perhaps about an hour 10 to run through to the end of the race. And Michael Dowson's going to pounce down the inside, and he will take the lead in the Castrol 6R, so it changes yet again. Tucked in tight, knee on the curbing. He does it, punches into the lead, and the 24-year-old Kiwi chases him and gets him. And that's the speed that Malcolm Campbell was talking about that so dispirited him. It really is a quick motorcycle. Brent Jones effortlessly, and Michael Dowson with the same sort of problem as drove Malcolm Campbell to distraction and ultimately down onto the bitumen, is being handed out here to Michael Dowson.
Actually, Jones is doing a very, very good job here because, you know, Michael was within 4 seconds behind him a while ago he was, now he's through, but he only just caught him very, very slowly, and I don't think you'll find Jones will drop far back behind Michael.
Oh, well, he's tucked in well again there. He got a bit of a surprise where Michael really did throw his bike into a very small gap, and he had to get out of the way or they'd have hit.
Which was a good tactic by Michael.
Yes, well, it gained him, what, 0.3 of a second or so?
Yeah, just put him way off, Will, and he just lost that initial gap straight away.
And lines up for a good run onto the straight. Now a high-speed run at 235 plus kilometres an hour down the straight. Dowson tucked in tightly, just the peak of the helmet, tips of the knees and boots. And the Suzuki reins him in.
A bit too far back that time to get any advantage out of the draft.
So it's good stuff, but Jones is coming back at him. In 3rd place, a lap down, is bike number 1. That's the defending 6-hour champion, Richard Scott, and he's being crewed by Rod Cox. And then in 4th place is the other Matic team bike of John Pace, Ben Middlemas. They lost Jeff French from the winning bike last week, and the gap ever narrowing. So Jones doing a very good job, Graham Crosby.
Jones is doing an extremely good job because obviously, you know, when you jump on a bike after Robert Holden's handed to you, it's a pretty hard sort of act to follow, but he's definitely catering with or coping with the pressure that's put on him. The bike, you know, I think in all fairness, the Suzuki throughout the year has been quicker than the Yamaha anyway. So I think any recollections of superbikes and all that sort of stuff, don't worry about it.
With just on an hour and a half remaining in the Castrol 6 hour, the situation on pit stops for the leading three bikes is as follows. In 15 minutes' time, the Magee bike will come in, Rod Cox will get off, Richard Scott will get on and go to the end. Now, they're currently a lap and 30 seconds behind, but that should make up the difference. 10 minutes later, the Action Suzuki of Brett Jones and Rob Holden is due. Now, they need an hour 12 between pit stops. By my calculations, that means that they will run out of fuel at 3:57 with 3 minutes remaining in the Castrol 6 hour. They see it the same way, and they're at the moment in a quandary whether to leave Jones out there for another lap to try and make up the difference because Jones is easier on fuel, or whether to call in their lead rider Robert Holden with just 3 minutes to go and give him a security churn. Meantime, the Marlboro Yamaha will pull Dowson off and put Magee on with just half an hour to go, and they'll go to the end. So currently for the Action Suzuki team, real dramas and real concerns in the pits. If Richard Scott is to win the Castrol 6 hour, he must make up 1 lap and 30 seconds on the leading Marlboro Yamaha bike of Dowson and Magee. It's taken now, its last stop. The tyre comes off the bike. Cox throws away the plate that prevents the bike from moving from its stand. Scheduled, wonderful stop. Everything in order so far. Waiting for the axle to come through. The axle taking some time to get through. It gets through. This is going to be a good stop. 19 seconds. Rolling in 21.04 seconds. Richard Scott now has 1 hour and 27 minutes in which to try and stamp his victory on the Castrol 6 hour.
Robert Holden, as he goes in, has been signalling to his crew. He's been standing up on the foot pegs, signalling to the front end of the bike. If he has to change a front tyre, well, then this could be disastrous.
Dennis Neal doesn't know what the problem is. He's got to speak to Robert Holden before they can make a choice. Here goes the front wheel off the bike. This is it, the first front wheel change in a Castrol 6 hour. The clock is on them. They've got to drop the calipers with twin disc front on the bike, twin disc brakes on the front of the bike, so both calipers have to be dropped. Now they're held in by retaining pins, but they can drop down, so that makes it very difficult indeed for the crew. And remember that these things are red hot, and the crew, one of the crew, is working without gloves. Okay, the front tyre is off, new tyre going on. 34 seconds going, frustrating for Robert Holden, but obviously the bike was in no condition to ride the way it was, not turning into the corner at all. Axle not locating, 43 seconds gone. This is the Castrol 6 hour, slipping away. The wheel nut goes on, Holden's on the bike, right to go. Now the calipers have got to go back in. Got to be aligned with the rotors, and the rotors can warp under the harsh conditions of motorcycle racing, so this is critical to get those calipers right on the front discs. 1 minute and 4 seconds gone. 1 minute and 6 seconds gone. Holden urging now to get the bike moving. He can see it moving away. 1 minute 11.93 seconds. Almost a collision with bike 2, the second of the Magee bikes, as he storms out of the pits. Robert Holden.
Well, absolutely sensational stuff. With 1 hour 20 remaining in the race, and already blessed, if you like. I wonder if they thought to top up the tank then, although that still wouldn't have got them to the end.
It still wouldn't have made any difference, purely because we've still got an hour and just on an hour and 20, so they still have to come in. But I know with Robert Holden out there, he's got a fresh, real fresh, brand new rear tyre, and they've gone out on an old one that's just about on the ragged edge, and he's expected to do 17s and possibly some high 16s, but the tyre that he's got on there is not capable of it. And I think it was a wise decision on his part to come in and put a new fresh one on.
Dennis Neal, what's happened to the front of Robert's bike?
Well, unfortunately, John, it's the second time today. The front wheel has actually been buckled. You can see quite clearly the tyre still has plenty of tread left on it.
but he went out and he was about 5 seconds a lap off the pace. For some reason or other, the front wheel's got a slight buckle in it. They're very, very light, fragile bikes, these, and obviously he might have done a bit of a wheel stand, or he might have run a bit wide on a pothole or something like that, but it's buckled the wheel. Put another wheel in. The guys did a fantastic job, and you just have to go for it now with another fresh tyre in the front.
When did you last practice a front tyre change?
We have to be truthful, we haven't practiced the front tyre change. We had used a harder tyre than we normally would have used because we knew it'd do the distance, but we're caught out a little bit, but they still did a very good job.
What are your chances in the Castrol 6-hour, Dennis, seem to have disappeared somewhat?
Well, it looks like it for first, but anything's possible. I think we could still have second. We had a fair lead over the third place bike. But, you know what motor racing's like, John, anything can happen.
Commiserations.
Thank you.
This is the race leader of the 17th Castrol 6-hour. It's Michael Dowson, absolutely honking and snarling his way over the Honda dogleg, round into Castrol corner and up onto the straight, scheduled very soon to do his final pit stop. It looked temptingly for a moment as though he was going in then. His margin over the second-placed bike, which is the Suzuki of Robin Holden and Brent Jones, is 1 lap and 42 seconds. So when he comes out, they will be very close to each other on the racetrack. And when Holden does a pit stop, which he will have to do, he will have the Magee team bike of Rod Cox and Richard Scott close to him. So Graham Crosby, it's in a really interesting situation overall.
Well, it's conceivable that the three of them will come out onto the track at virtually the same time. Here we see the Marlborough dealer team. He's just getting ready now to come in. I would think that this is the lap, so we'll keep our eyes on him. He'll be in for a very, very quick bullet fuel stop. I don't think he'll put another tyre on. It'll just be fuel only, I would think.
Handing over to Kevin Magee. Have a look at the muffler just behind the rider's foot. When he cranks it up and you see it up in the air, you'll see where it's been rubbing on the racetrack. There it is, a triangular mark on the muffler, just where the pipe goes into the muffler. On the Yamahas, that's one of the points that drags. Dowson's done a tremendous job on the bike that was deliberately made, and it's not this lap. Deliberately, yes it is, he's in. So the lead bike.
The fourth scheduled pit stop for the Marlborough Yamaha team. Michael Dowson comes in, about to hand over to Kevin Magee. Graham Crosby was right, it will be fuel only. Dowson has indicated he doesn't need a rear tyre. So this should be a lightning fast stop. They're 1 lap and 55 seconds in front. Taking some time, spilt fuel all over the boot of Kevin Magee. Bike loath to start, doesn't want to start. Oh, a slow stop, 22, 23 seconds. Bike won't start. Magee's off it, bump starting it. And it starts in 26.93 seconds. Well, they had that much time and more.
And that's
boy,
the Suzuki.
Boy, they were expecting 10 seconds, maybe a little more, a little less.
There's the Suzuki, goes past it.
Disaster for them.
So onto the same lap goes Robin Holden, but he has a stop to do. And then the Magee bike comes into calculations in terms of racing on the track, because there is a lap between them. But Robin Holden, who was called back into the pits, or decided of his own wish to come back in and to replace the front wheel on the bike, the first time it's ever been done in the 6-hour, is now leading on the road. Well, he's on the same lap, so he's all of that part of a lap behind. Let's go back down to the pits and to John Smales.
I guess it'd be fair to describe Michael Dowson more tired than jubilant at the moment.
Oh, no. I just had to, it was really frustrating out there because I had to try and conserve that tyre so we could go in just for a fuel stop. So it was difficult for me to keep the reins back, I suppose you could say. The tyres are feeling really good, the bike's going really well. Kevin can go home with what we got on board now, so it's looking good.
As it turns out, though, that stop was so slow that you could have changed the tyre after all, Mike.
Well, with what the lead we've got now, yeah, we could have, but better safe than sorry.
Thanks, Mike.
And the gap between them on the road is 4 seconds, as Kevin Magee takes a little while to settle in on bike number 3. But there's no way he needs to be flustered about that, because Suzuki number 12 needs to do a pit stop, which will put him that lap plus behind. And Graham Crosby there, is it looking as though the bike's not too grippy at the back end?
Well, of course, Magee, every time he's been on the bike previous to this, has had a nice fresh set of tyres, and now he's having to go out on something that's already done. virtually an hour and a half of running, so the tyres will be, I wouldn't call it in the best of conditions, but it's going to take him some laps to settle into a nice smooth lap time. Of course, he won't be able to go as fast as he'd like to, so it's a matter of trying to pace himself against the condition of the bike.
ABC Sport across Australia, stay with us as the countdown is now on for this, the marathon of production motorcycle races, the Castrol 6 Hour.
This is the situation as we've shown you. On the same lap, bike number 3 leading by almost a full lap, but in fact 4 seconds behind it on the race.
The Castrol 6 Hour is always nothing if not controversial, and controversy has hit us again in the closing stages. We just saw the Magee Dowson bike stop, we saw the bike fail to start, and we saw 2 team members push it immediately away. Dennis Neal says that's against the rules, and Dennis Neal is the manager of the bike that's coming second.
Well, that's right, John. The rules are laid down. They had a riders' briefing this morning. They wanted to point out to everyone quite clearly, if your bike failed to stop after the fuel stop, you had to wait 30 seconds before your mechanics could push it. Now, evidently you've got that on TV, and you can see quite clearly they pushed it about 5 or 10 seconds after. So we've just gone and put a protest in. They said it was a 1-lap penalty. So if they enforce that, like in fact they should, we've got a real race on our hands again, because we're only just a lap plus a little bit behind them.
When do you anticipate we'll hear about the results of that protest?
Well, we've just sent up one of our members to talk to the clerk of the course to see what was going to happen. I spoke to Chris Peckham, the chief scrutineer, and he verified the fact that they did not wait 30 seconds, so he was also going to report it. So unfortunately, we don't like putting in protests and so on, but the rules are laid down, and you've got to stick to it and run a tight team, so does everybody.
Well, there's 30,000 good reasons, I guess, then.
Well, that's exactly right.
Here's a man who loved to win on the racetrack rather than in the rule book. In fact, I know that they were talking about the Le Mans start, that their crews couldn't push until 30 seconds after the start if the bike failed to start at the rider briefing this morning. I don't know if it also refers to pit activity.
I'm not sure about that, Will, but I know for a safety aspect, 30 seconds is about right, because you don't want somebody pushing or having guys pushes out there at the start, and there's guys on the bikes going every which way.
That was queried at the rider meeting, and as I say, and there we see Gary Ticehurst again trying to keep up with Kevin Magee. And you have to be a pretty good chopper pilot to keep up with a very good motorcycle rider, and not a bad cameraman either. But something Magee can't do is get that sort of elevation as we come down to the Suzuki with its 4-second advantage on the track to that blazing day-glow orange Yamaha that in fact leads the race.
Bearing in mind also, Will, that Robert Holden's got a brand new front tyre because of the buckled wheel from prior to that, so he should be able to do lap times, I would say around the 17s. He has been doing that, pulling back Dowson at about 1 second a lap. Depending on how many laps we've got left in this race, will really determine whether or not he'll be able to come and have a fuel stop, put in 5 or 10 litres or whatever it is very quickly, and then go out and still be in for a chance at that second spot.
So Robert Holden really has put in a tremendous effort in this race. He's ridden his heart out. He's been battling for the lead most of the time. He's had it for quite a large percentage of the race. And he's been trying to pull back the time lost by his co-rider, Brent Jones. So he must be a very tired man indeed. Now he's trying to pull away and to reduce that almost full lap deficit to bike number 3, the Marlboro Yamaha. Kevin Magee is a great young rider of enormous talent and potential. And this is the protest arising from Dennis Neal's protest, the Marlboro Yamaha dealer team manager, Oran Willing, Michael Dowson, who's just got off the bike, the Clarke, of course, Ron Kivovich, Cameron McMillan also, whom I might say has a Dino Ferrari. So that was the man who delivered the rider briefing this morning. Chris Peckham is the chief scrutineer, and his version of it and of the rules and Michael Dowson's explanation of it all being given now. And of course, if that were to be upheld and if he were to be penalised a lap, we'd have a race only about 5 or 6 seconds between the leading pair, and you can see how much Oran Willing thinks about it all. He's saying precious little. Sixth place is Roger Hayes. That's not Roger on the bike. Yes, it is. That's Roger on the bike at the moment. Couldn't run in the 3-hour at Surfers because Steve Rinke Motorcycles didn't yet have delivery of the GPX 750. But Roger won the production bike race at Bathurst last Easter, Len Willing, in a fairly fierce dice with a few other riders.
Yeah, he certainly did. He's been trying to win that race for a lot of years, and last year I suppose he tried harder than ever because he did it, and he did it in fine style too.
You were right in the middle of it, weren't you?
Yeah, I was trying very hard to take it off him, but that wasn't possible, and he did win it in exceptional lap time as well. He set a lap record for that size machine.
Len, it's very nice to have you here because you had that fall, what, September 5 over in Western Australia?
Yes.
And what did you bung up at the time?
Well, I broke my right ankle, my left foot and my right wrist, which is a little bit more than I've had out of previous injuries. But but anyway, what happened, the accident, as it was happening, I thought it was going to come out all right because there wasn't any walls or anything to hit, but unfortunately the bike landed on top of me, and that was snap, snap, snap.
And since then, of course, it really has been the most wretched time. Unbelievable luck for the Kawasaki team.
Yeah, it's quite funny, Will, because I've spent about a year and a half trying to convince them to paint the bikes green and white again like they used to be when Greg Hansford and Graham and everyone rode them. They finally painted them green and white. The first meeting with a green and white one was Perth, where I fell off it, and then they went to Surface with them green and white, and they lost another rider, Jeff McNaughton, cracked his shoulder. And then they come here this week with them green, and both riders have had a case of the flu.
Yes, it's been a wretched time. Matic Racing coming into its own towards the latter part of this race, holding 3rd and 4th at the moment. And there's the helicopter, and you really do get the sense of speed, don't you, with the chopper pacing it along with the motorbike as he comes through Castrol corner up onto pit straight again. And that's the defending team and rider, Richard Scott and Rod Cox, both of them previous Castrol 6-hour winners. Richard Scott, the winner in the last 2 years. But the tactics and the race pace of such as bike number 3, Magee and Dowson, bike 12 of Robert Holden and Brent Jones, and prior to that, prior to crashing, 7 Malcolm Campbell and Iain Pero, has really been too much for them.
It has been very fast. With the Yamaha, there's 2 ways to run the race. You can run it full noise and only make the hour 12 pit stop, or hour 20 is all you've got in the tank, or you could choose to do it the way that the Matic team has, and that's go for the hour and a half, which is paying off. They're coming right back into it now.
Yes, indeed, and that's one aspect of the race. The other aspect that's just come into contention recently is this protest from the Action Suzuki team. Let's find out the full story.
And I have the clerk of the course, Ron Kivovich, with me. Ron, what's the situation?
Well, unfortunately, it gives me no pleasure to say that I've had to give a 1-lap penalty to the Yamaha team. The reason being that they didn't try to start the motorcycle, give it the mandatory 30 seconds before pushing it away from their pit area, and I've got no option. I have to operate on the information given to me by the pit scrutineers, and so be it.
So Yamaha's gone from 1st to 2nd place in the motorcycle?
At this stage, it looks that way.
Thank you, Ron.
Thank you.
And so the gap that he's chasing is of the order of 9 seconds. So, the Suzuki, Robert Holden. But he still has a brief pit stop to do. Still has a pit stop. So the Yamaha's margin very much decreased, but still in the hunt, no question.
Yeah, but you've got to remember, well, also that, like I said before, Robert Holden's got the brand new tyres. And I'm sure that he won't be hanging around the pit area. He'll take 10 litres. If that's what it takes to win the race, then he'll only be taking 10. I can assure you it's going to be a lightning stop.
Fascinating end to what has been a superbly close and hard-fought 6-hour. And, of course, Len Willing, it's 20 minutes now, 21 from the end of the race, and it was half this time from the race end last year. 10 minutes. You leading when you fell off.
Yes, it was, which was it has to be the biggest disappointment I've had so far in the racing career. But it was very easy to fall off that day. I was probably lucky to get as far as I did without some mistakes.
You must have, as it started to go, you must have said, "Oh my God, I can't believe it."
I realised I was in trouble before I actually turned the kink at the end of the straight, and it was on the approach to the next corner was where I actually left the racetrack. So I was sort of half off it already before it did it. I just wanted to pick it up and get going again.
On the racetrack, this bike, a 10-second margin. In the lead.
He's pulling out about a second a lap at the stage, Will. Just the 1 second a lap, and at this rate, he will continue to do that until he gets to a point where he's going to say, okay, I'm going to have to forfeit that lead, rush in, dump some petrol into it, and go.
Go chasing.
And earlier on, they said specifically that there is no way that the race will go any longer than the whole 6 hours.
And then you're going to see a contest between two extremely talented bike riders. Len Willing, you've raced against both of them. How would you evaluate the talent of Kevin Magee, firstly, against Robert Holden?
Well, I think Kevin and Robert, as far as talent goes, they've both got a truckload of it. Kevin, maybe we've seen a little bit more of his determination than we have of the New Zealanders, but in this case, the New Zealand bike with Robert Holden on it has all the aces, in my opinion. It has good grip up the front, it has better grip at the rear than what Kevin can have, simply for the overlap on tyre wearing, and it's going to be one big finish, this race.
We should have welcomed earlier in the day, I know that many groups of motorcycle enthusiasts, sometimes clubs, have got together, and a fair number, Graham Crosby, also of the touring car brigade who were performing at Bathurst last weekend. A fair few drivers there.
Well, I'd like to take the opportunity to say hello to Dick Johnson, you know, and good old Jimmy Richards down there in Melbourne, probably sitting there with a can in his hand.
Well,
Hi, Jim.
I understand from what you said of the night you had with Jim a night or two ago that he's probably still holding his head.
It's probably the same can.
We do expect a pit stop very shortly from Robert Holden, absolutely flying over the top of the dogleg there. And among a number of riders, he really has put in a fantastic performance. Here he comes, the race leader coming into the pits with a margin of about 11 seconds. While he goes down to the pit area there and we monitor the stop, we'll give you a progress report. And bike number 3 goes by. Now it is in the lead.
And one moment he was the feather duster, the next minute he's the rooster. Robert Holden stays on the bike. It won't start. Yes, it does. 12.51 seconds. 10 seconds faster than the Yamaha. We haven't seen the Yamaha go past. It must have by now. Will Hagen, where is the Yamaha?
The Yamaha has gone by about 10 seconds, I would reckon. There he is, winding his way round the tight back section of the circuit, in the race lead again, taking into account his 1 lap penalty. Kevin Magee now, 24 years old, from Horsham in Victoria. A fabulous race at Sugo last weekend in an international Formula 1 race, beaten only by the World 250 champions from 1984, and the bike walking around everywhere.
The pressure's certainly on. I wouldn't like to be in his shoes right now. We know, well, he will know that the bike that Robert Holden's running is pulling him in about a second a lap. So the guy has got his work cut out.
No way Kevin Magee wants to let up. Too much of a racer for that. He might do it early in the race. He certainly won't do it now with 17 minutes remaining. We'll measure the gap for you now.
It's Kevin Magee. And it's starting, believe it or not, to rain in yet another 6 hour. And it's quite a big margin for Robert Holden. It's 16.1 seconds. And that's not impossible.
He's going to have to be pulling in about 1.3 or one, maybe, yeah, maximum 1.3. He's got to be pulling that in. And if the, as we know, the helicopter pilot above us is starting to rain, I know whose shoes I'd rather be in. You can see the way the Yamaha is moving around. You know, the tyres aren't in any good shape for that type of riding for any length of time. He is riding the wheels off this thing.
He does know how to ride the wheels off something too. Looking on fairly admiringly, Len Willing.
Yeah, got a lot of time for Kevin. He's a rider, he's a very talented rider, and he seemed to have skipped a few years of the apprenticeship that everyone else had to go through, so you can't take anything away from him. He just fights and tries hard all the time. You're saying that he doesn't have a lot of scar tissue around him? No, he just seems to have got where he has in a shorter period than most, you know.
He did a most remarkable thing, didn't he? 15 seconds the gap from Oran Willing, his team leader. He did a most remarkable thing. Did what few people could do, moving up from a European category, riding a Ducati, riding it unbelievably quickly around places like Oran Park, onto getting factory recognition.
Yeah, he's to follow him on this FZ is it's different. Yeah.
Well, out on the racetrack, you can see what Magee's doing as the bike goes sideways every time he opens the throttle. Let's go down to his team manager in the pits.
And in the pits, the hearts are in the mouth of the Marlboro Yamaha team, but I guess also a lot of anger, Oran Willing.
Yeah, a bit disappointed, feeling a bit petty, but we're going to win the race anyway, so it doesn't matter.
You didn't put on a spare tyre, on a new tyre at the last stop because you thought you could cruise to the finish. Now we've got specks of rain on the circuit, and the man's out there going for it on a tyre that maybe isn't up to scratch.
No, the tyre's fine. No problem.
Warren, we'll see you at the finish.
What a spectacular finish.
It is indeed, and the rain is well and truly on. And again, two former riders here, Graham Crosby and Len Willing. When does it become most slippery? When all that rubber and accumulation of days of practice, although there has been some rain to clean it earlier in the week, and it just gets that water coating on it. About now?
Right now, 15 minutes to go, and everybody's got tyres that I still don't think are in perfect condition, but for rain to come down now, it's going to be greasy.
I reckon the way that bike is walking around and sliding, it's got a lot of feather edges, hasn't it, on the tread pattern?
Yes, but I can assure you my seat is firm here and it's not going to slip. It's very hard to pick which one is going to come out on top at this stage, because after last year's race, the Suzuki was very difficult to ride in the rain compared to the Yamahas.
It was when Phillis went backwards in the race.
Yet the rain doesn't look like it's very fierce. It's just a shower.
In fact, I think the rain could advantage the bike in front, because it reduces the number of laps they're going to do. It increases the amount of time per lap he has to pick up, in a sense.
Yes, it can.
And in fact, I don't know that Robert Holden's made much of an impression on it at the moment.
My calculations, he's lost 1 second. Yeah.
That's third place, bike number 1. Richard Scott, Rod Cox, both previous winners of the race. Scott the last 2 years, with Mike Dowson in '84 on the two-stroke Yamaha 500, and with Paul Feeney last year on a similar bike to what he's riding now. Rod Cox with Malcolm Campbell in '83 on a Honda VF 750F. Interesting to compare the results of the various manufacturers over the years. Kawasaki's been the dominant manufacturer in the 6-hour with 5 wins. The two-stroke 750 triple, a fiercely fast and fairly ill-handling bike in its day. won in 72, and then there were 4 years of domination by the 4-stroke 900ers. Look at Kevin Magee, just doesn't button off an instant. The rain clears and the sun comes out again, and two riders are hammering at it and refusing to give up. Behind them, Honda has had 4 wins, Yamaha 3, Suzuki 2, BMW and Triumph 1 each. And the gap as we wait for Robert Holden to come round, as with the full length of the straight between them, it's about a 16.5-second gap. So this man on bike number 3 is doing all that's required of him to stay there, and I think his team manager might be right.
Yeah, he's only got 10 minutes to go. He just has to keep himself out of trouble and keep circulating at that same pace, and it'll be very, very hard for Robert to pull that back. He's doing a massive job. As you can see, the thing is just crabbing and sliding everywhere.
I reckon there's a young man on that bike who said, they can't do it to me and they're not going to get away with it. And that man, trying for all he can do, he's done it all up until now in this race.
Yes.
But it looks as though it just might be getting away from him.
Yeah, it's a shame because he's been in Australia 2 years now, and he's been working very hard ever since, and he seems to get so close, and something manages to drag him back, which everybody has that problem, but it's when you're watching someone that's trying so hard for so long, you start to feel a little bit for them.
Well, in fact, Robert Holden was leading that Shell Oil series, and he dropped here, broke a bone in his wrist, and he virtually lost that series then. Kevin Magee, on the other hand, had the series wrapped up with 1 lap remaining in the 3-hour race at Surface, had to pit, get a drop of fuel, and lost that series by dropping from 2nd to 4th place.
That's right, and in that Surface race, Robert, he actually had one pit stop that was 40 seconds too long, and he had an accident on the track.
He had an accident.
He was quite quick enough to be a genuine winner of that race that day.
Kevin Magee, I wonder, with about 9 minutes remaining, I wonder what Oran Willing's showing him. There we see the race leader into the S's, up towards Yamaha corner. That's Yamaha corner. Coming up now to the Honda dogleg. Zooming through there. What gear through there, Len Willing?
On the Yamaha, Kevin's coming over the flip-flop in 5th gear, back 2 gears and onto the straight in 3rd.
Take us round and tell us what sort of speeds and gears you're using.
So he'd be picking up 5th at about now, and he'll run 5th, just a short bit of 6th gear, back 5th gear.
What sort of top speed?
About 235 k's, 230 odd. Down to 3rd gear for this one. You have to get on the gas very early because it's a little bit of a tall gear. And down to the U-turn, which at Coca-Cola, which is a 2nd gear corner. Usually on the exit from this, you pick up 3rd gear to go through the little left here, and then you would go back to 2nd gear again there. Kevin's holding the same gear, 2nd gear all the way. Now you'll pick 3rd gear there, and 4th gear and off the bridge.
And that's a pretty quick turn.
Very bumpy, very hard to, it's blind as you approach it, very hard to pick your line. Down here is still in 4th gear. You will keep this gear all the way through Yamaha.
What sort of speed Yamaha corner do you reckon?
Yamaha, I think just over the 100 mile an hour, I think.
160 kilometres an hour.
Just pick 5th gear to go through this flip-flop, which is very fast. It's nearly as fast as the straight. A lot of people don't realise it, but it is. And this is back to 3rd gear and onto the straight.
It's one of those high-speed sections of track where a good rider can pull out ground on a lesser rider.
Very, very good place for making time. It's, believe it or not, between doing it right, it's a 2nd a lap in that section.
Kevin Magee absolutely fired up and responding beautifully, pulling time on Robert Holden, who's, oh my goodness, don't dump it, Kevin. Neither of you deserve not to finish.
No.
Keep it upright. There's Robert Holden. He's under the bridge now. How many times has the 6 hour seen a crash in the dying moments?
Mike Steele
on the final lap at Oran Park in the Dunlop Loop. got up and still won the race.
Yeah, well, it's that time of the day when if you are the man in front, you've got all the pressure on you, so you've just got to manage to keep it all together.
And Len, Kevin Magee's won a lot in recent times. He won the Arrow 500 this year, his first run in the race. But what does a 6-hour race win mean? Because it really is pretty important.
Well, I'm not 100% sure on what it means. I haven't won one
North
yet.
Crosby, he doesn't know.
But it is important in Australian sport. It's probably the most important. But besides that, it's worth a lot of prize money. And Kevin said to me last year he wanted to win it on his first attempt. He didn't manage that, but he's trying very hard for his second attempt.
And he's had a great season.
A pretty phenomenal effort. I myself, this would have been year 9, and I've ran seconds, fourths, thirds, but never a first.
Yes, well, it is a hard one to win, and on top of the sort of season Kevin Magee's had, he's second in the Suzuki 8-hour to Wayne Gardner and Dominique Saron. That's second recently at the Sugo circuit in a couple of Formula One sprint races. The Arrow 500 race, he's won at Bathurst earlier this year. He really is very quickly proving himself to be a remarkable motorcycle racer, as the second-placed bike of Robert Holden comes round and puts an additional lap on bike number 1 in third place.
265 laps, Will.
And
it's got to be a record.
5 minutes remaining. That's 3 or 4 laps, so it'll... Last year's record, the year before at least, was 260 laps. So a considerable increase.
You're looking at a total of around the 268.
Magee flying and flowing well. Information from his pits is telling him he's maintaining his margin.
Yes. Yeah, so we're just telling him to keep it cool and just keep circulating, because he's got it well within his grasp now.
This will cap off a terrific year for the Marlborough dealer team.
Very good. It's good to see too, with the sponsorship backing and getting such a good return for their first year.
It's been a very good year for them indeed.
Look at him ride this thing.
So Kevin Magee heading to record race distance, heading to his first Castrol 6-hour win possibly. Kevin will not enhance his reputation if he dumps the bike at this stage of the race, but he is absolutely hectic, isn't he, Len? He's not backing off a moment.
I'm sitting here getting excited as he gets a slip here and there, but I should know better, because you can follow him for hours and he just catches them and puts them in again and does them again.
10 seconds separate number 1 and number 2 here.
10 seconds then.
So he's pulled it in.
He's pulled it in. You can probably see the end results.
Yeah.
Magee having to really extract the finger.
He really is having to produce this sort of daredevilry, isn't he? This sort of sliding to put up with it, to get it to the line in front. If he backed off from that, it's just lap after lap of total risk.
Magee's only thoughts at this stage are probably looking for a couple of good bits of traffic to leave between him and Robert, who's catching, and he's got one behind him, Roger Hayes, who's trying very hard to stay right there.
And in fact, it's one of the reasons I think that he's attacking the traffic so vigorously.
Yeah.
That's an area where he feels he can make time that doesn't require tyres.
He's really got to maintain concentration in a situation like this, because he only has to relax once, and I'm sure something will happen. He's got to keep going for that goal.
Yeah.
Previous greatest distance in the Castrol 6-hour was 723.9 kilometres at Amaru Park, the final year there before it switched to Oran Park in '84. That was set by Rod Cox and Malcolm Campbell. Here last year, 238 laps in a wet race, 260 the year before. They're already 6 in front of the previous best. The gap is just 8 seconds. It really is an incredible finish with probably 2 laps remaining. because it will go 6 hours plus whatever, and the leading bike will be the first one to get the flag. And this is the gap. There was Magee through. The man chasing him and hunting him and pulling him back to within 8 seconds is Robert Holden. Will Magee crash? How many more seconds can Holden pull back? Two men absolutely on the limit.
I noticed the Marlborough pit team was holding their signs very high and very clear at the moment. To show Kevin he has got the end in sight. He just has to keep it there. This is it.
Is the black and white checkered flag ready for Kevin Magee yet? As he goes under the bridge, this will be it, because it's only about half a minute now to the 6 hours. So Kevin Magee, with a very narrow margin and a narrowing margin, in the lead, penalised the lap, but absolutely producing magical, daring riding to keep the Marlborough Yamaha dealer team 5 valves per cylinder, 4-cylinder bike in front.
Just half a lap to go and he's got $10,000. Yes. I could work it out the last inch. Don't bother thinking about it yet. That's what I can say.
Well, it's been a heroic effort by both of them. That's all I pray for, that neither of them comes unstuck, because neither of them gave up.
One corner.
They really did fly. This is lap 270. That's 707 kilometres. And it's Kevin Magee, and it is victory in the 17th Castrol 6 Hour to the team of Kevin Magee and Michael Dowson for the Marlborough Yamaha dealer team, first in this wonderful race that's seen so many leaders, so many fierce scraps for the lead, in which finally, after being penalised a lap, they hung on and they fought and they came up trumps. There was victory to them, and it should be second place to the Action Suzuki bike, number 12 of Robert Holden and New Zealander Brent Jones, both of them Kiwis in fact. But what a heroic effort by Magee and by Michael Dowson. Don't take anything away. He had his head tucked down and his bottom hanging off the bike, and somebody's down.
Lap.
And this is what we've always said about the race.
RZ 350.
And is that Domkins from bike number 32? Daryl Mallam, I reckon, number 32. And there is second place bike, Robert Holden. Great sportsmanship, well fought. And as I say, the best result was that they both got there at the finish, because they both deserved the result. Third place, a lap down, goes to the Matich Pirelli racing team, the defending champion, Richard Scott, supported by another former winner, Rod Cox. And there are the results for you. A record race speed at Oran Park and distance, 270 laps, 707 kilometres, and that is almost 118 kilometres an hour averaged by that man, including 4 pit stops, and his lead rider, Michael Dowson. Absolutely superlative stuff. If Alan Grice won at Bathurst, won, and didn't inherit the win, well, how do you reckon Kevin Magee and Michael Dowson went? They really did go for it and won on their merits.
A very deserved victory, I think, Will. Even in view of the odd protest and all that, but it really has added a bit of colour right to the last couple of laps.
Indeed.
That was an excellent win.
Absolute sensation at the Castrol 6 Hour 1986. The winner being congratulated is Kevin Magee. But Kevin, do you know what happened to you in the last lap? You were penalised a minute.
Yeah, I was sure at the riders' meeting this morning that the penalty for push starting was 30 seconds. And I had all that worked out, and I thought it was pretty cool, and then they put a lap out.
Well, you've won by just 5.56 seconds as Michael Dowson comes in. Michael, of course, the winner of the 1984 Castrol 6-hour. Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks, John. I just can't believe it. It's just exactly like the 6-hour in '84. I'm sitting on the side of the road waiting for this. I'm going to give this. I'm going to have grey hair if this ever happens again, I think.
Well, your name's already on the trophy, but to present you with it again for Kevin as well as Ron Roberts, the Marketing Service Manager of Castrol Australia.
Good. Congratulations, a great ride. Congratulations.
Thanks very much.
So how do you feel about a minute penalty, Michael?
Well, it drove me crazy in the pits. As I said, it's all right for Kevin. He was out there doing the job, but very hard on me, and I think it was especially showing on Warren.
Yeah. Well, you did also a race lap record, 270 laps, 10 up on your time in 1984.
Wow. I wouldn't be surprised. Like the laps were very fast. Like we're in the 18s all the time, and even Robert Holden was doing an exceptional job. But we come through the old Yamaha once again.
Kevin, when the rain started to fall towards the end, how did you feel?
Well, no, it dried off before as it hit me. I just wanted to make sure I was going to stay upright and not let Robert get any closer. That was the main things in my mind.
Were you aware of the pressure was on you from behind?
Yeah.
And you thought you had his measure?
No, I ran out of front brakes. I was having to just change down the gears and let the engine really rev to slow down. I had no front brakes.
In retrospect, of course, it would have been a wonderful idea if you'd have put a new tyre on at the last stop.
No, the tyre was fine, actually. No problems.
Well, that's tremendous, isn't it? Yes. Michael, where do you go from here, the two of you?
Oh, you know, hopefully something big will happen. I think we'd both like to do some international racing again, so let's hope some of that happens.
Well, in regard to that, Kevin Magee, of course, has had a wonderful year so far, having come second at Sugo only a week ago.
Yes, John, made a bit of a mark this year, and I hope it can continue next year, that's for sure.
Well, congratulations to the two of you. The winners of the Castrol 6-hour 1986, Kevin Magee and Michael Dowson for Yamaha. On behalf of Will Hagan, I hope you've enjoyed the Castrol 6-hour for 1986. And this is John Smale for ABC Sport.